Imagine if our solar system wasn't as lonely as we previously thought. What if there is actually evidence pointing to giant alien craft near Saturn? And what if these beings are not only far away, but closer to us than we ever thought possible? Bob Dean, a US scientist, reveals information about 12 intelligent species that may be operating among us and throughout the solar system. But who are these beings, and what are their intentions? Saturn, a planet with secrets? It seems that so far we know less about Saturn than science claims. Although several probes have already visited the gas giant, and most recently the Cassini mission studied Saturn and its moons for more than 20 years, something important seems to have escaped us. Aliens are said to be at work around Saturn. They have placed their spaceship behind the planet, there where we cannot discover it so easily from Earth. If one believes the remarks of Robert Bob Dean, then these aliens are not to be made out so easily because they move completely or partly in another dimension. These life forms are supposed to do some kind of mining in the numerous rings of the gas planet. Apparently, the dust and rock particles that make up some of the rings are valuable and rare minerals that serve as food or fuel for this life form. Does this sound crazy to you? Well then hold on tight because it gets even better, and Bob Dean even possessed photos to prove it all. Bob Dean's revealed monstrosities. Robert O. Dean was stationed at NATO headquarters from 1963 to 1967, having served in the US Army since 1960. He rose to the rank of Command Sergeant Major in the Korean War and later in the Vietnam War. Exactly what Dean did at NATO is unclear to this day, and the man who later caused a worldwide sensation as a ufologist was viewed critically by the organization as well as by NASA. Dean did not mince words throughout his life. From the Barcelona Exopolitics Summit on July 25, 2009, he once said in public, "There are intelligent races out there that are 1 billion years ahead of us. We are finding stars that probably have planets. These planets could be up to 3 times as old as our star." Dean always called NASA the Never a Straight Answer organization because the US Space Agency is now known for not taking Turkey when it comes to aliens and UFOs. In spring of 2023, it came to a hearing in the American Senate with which not NASA was under fire, but the Pentagon. This is supposed to be because the Pentagon apparently knew for a long time about extraterrestrials, but has never shared this knowledge neither with ordinary soldiers and officers, nor with normal citizens. Some fighter pilots who have seen UFOs took action against the Pentagon. They wanted to finally be able to speak without being attacked or defamed. Anyone who studies the subject must inevitably be shocked at how many spacecraft are sighted by pilots each year and the fascinating differences between them. All in all, current developments seem to confirm exactly what Bob Dean spent a lifetime trying to tell humanity. Dean shared many photos that were later misappropriated by NASA and not given the attention they deserved. This photo of a strange flying object was taken by astronauts on the Apollo 12 mission. The photograph was taken by Alan L. Bean, one of the astronauts on the mission. Alan L. Bean was the 4th man to walk on the moon. He was the lunar module pilot for the Apollo 12 mission and a talented photographer and artist. In his active days, Bean did not comment on the spacecraft sighting, and NASA downplayed the incident. Bob Dean liked to use the photo as part of his lectures, giving people amazing insights into alien contact. His work at NATO gave him extensive and surprising insights into various extraterrestrial interactions with humanity. However, no one publicly proved the man right. To this day, NATO, NASA, and the Pentagon refuse to admit that they know of the existence of extraterrestrials and possibly maintain contacts with these entities themselves. 12 species in many dimensions. In the context of a UFO presentation at the University of Leeds, Dean told very impressively that he knew of 4 different extraterrestrial groups during his service. By the time he retired, the number of known species had grown to more than 12. The expert on extraterrestrial life forms even suggested the existence of over 100 different extraterrestrial organizations. One of the 4 main groups of aliens probably resembles humans so much that these beings can mingle with humans without being detected. Dean indicated that some of these aliens would hold important positions in powerful institutions and that the activities of this species must be viewed with caution. But how can something be controlled that hardly anyone knows about? If one believes Dean's explanations, Authorities like NASA and NATO cooperate with the beings without informing completely normal citizens. This can seem frightening, but Dean also painted a positive picture of the alien life forms. Some of these species do not exist in the three-dimensional world as we do. They live wholly or partially on other dimensions, but can interact with us, or we interact with those dimensions without us realizing it. Dean also said that alien visitation goes beyond interplanetary interactions to include interstellar and cosmic creatures that have long since left behind or been subjected to the limits of time and space. Whoever thinks now that this is mumbo-jumbo could commit a fatal mistake, because until today, most of the unsolved equations of the field theories in physics and mathematics do not open until we consider 10 or 12 dimensions possible. Already, Einstein explained that there must be more dimensions than space-time. However, during his life, he did not dare to describe these in order not to disturb conservative science and to endanger his reputation. Privately, however, Einstein was a great mystic and passionately pursued questions like these. One who dared to make the 12-dimension model public was Burkhard Heim. What happened to him was exactly what Einstein wanted to avoid. Heim was excluded by the conservative researchers and was cast into scientific sidelines by his theory, which includes a God dimension. But back to Bob Dean and his exciting photographs. Several of the photographs we are about to share with you were obtained by Dean from Dr. Norman Bergrun, a scientist and engineer for NASA Ames Research Center and Lockheed Martin. Dr. Bergrun played a key role in the Voyager missions and the probes sent out to photograph Saturn, its rings, and moons. This photograph is believed to be from NASA itself, and Dr. Bergrun was able to secure it before it was placed under censorship by the agency. It shows a large, unidentified flying object hovering just outside Saturn's rings. In a book written by Dr. Bergrun about Saturn's rings, he went on to show photographs taken by the Voyager 1 and 2 spacecraft in 1980 and 1981. There, the scientist claims that Saturn's rings are formed in part by the activity of giant electromagnetic vehicles. These vehicles are controlled by intelligent beings who presumably do some kind of mining or mineral extraction in their rings. This image finally shows the nearly 3,000-kilometer-long spaceship and space station. At the end, there seems to be something like an exhaust or some kind of energy blast. In Bergrun's and Dean's view, traces of thrusters can be seen here. Bob Dean explained that other elliptical ships, about 11,265 kilometers long, are currently orbiting Saturn inside the rings, ejecting ring material with an exhaust visible to trained eyes. Later analysis by Bergrun and others suggested that the same or similar ships orbit the Sun, Jupiter, and Uranus, collecting energies and materials there and forming the familiar rings through their activities. Dr. Bergrun concluded that these entities, which also operate on other dimensions, may even be inhabitants of Saturn and other apparently inanimate planets in the solar system. The above image is also from the Apollo 12 mission. A mysterious object was spotted by Apollo astronauts as they orbited the moon. The next picture was taken by astronaut Neil Armstrong while the astronauts were looking out the window of their small landing capsule, and this cigar-shaped object flew by. The next image shows a mysterious disc-shaped object several hundred meters in diameter. It was taken while the astronauts were on their way to the surface of the moon to take a closer look at Landsberg crater. Allegedly, the order to examine the Landsberg crater in detail came from NASA itself in order to study there possibly traces of mining activities of extraterrestrials. If you don't see a spaceship here, you better clean your eyes. How do you feel now? And has your doubt begun to dissipate? Well, take a look at these pictures. On these pictures, we see the spaceship above the crater. So NASA does have images that are not shared with the public, and only insiders can leak the information if they choose the uncomfortable path of taking action against institutions that systematically withhold the truth from us. The tragedy of NASA, the Pentagon, and the US government is always the same. Astronauts, pilots, scientists, and whistleblowers are antagonized, made to look insane, ridiculed, or excluded from scientific circles. Bob Dean and Dr. Bergrun were not deterred. Dean never tired of speaking worldwide at gatherings of critical scientists and ufologists about his knowledge from 41 years of service to the United States. Incidentally, he also commented on the origin of the people themselves. Bob Dean gained knowledge that the human race is a hybrid race created by genetic modification from an extraterrestrial species some 200,000 years ago. Bob Dean died in Tucson, Arizona on October 11, 2018 at the age of 89, leaving the world a legacy we will likely ponder for a long time to come. Subscribe now because the best videos are yet to come.